Wagwan, Wagwan. Welcome to the DIY Yardie channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. This video I'm doing a front strut install on a Cadillac Escalade. This is actually what the new strut looks like. And this is the strut on the truck. It's actually they call the magnetic ride. So I'm doing like the loaded strut or the complete strut. It comes, everything. There's no tearing apart. Sometimes you can get some of these struts where you have to remove the old spring and transfer everything over to that new part. This is called a loaded strut, so it's complete. What you gotta do is remove the old one and install the new one. And starting here with the lower bolts, and it's a 15 millimeter, or they're 15 millimeters. So I'm getting those removed. Okay, so it's one on each side. And I always say, you see I have my jack stand onto the truck there. Whenever you're working under the vehicle, safety first. Make sure you have your jack stand, and I keep my jack stand and my jack, you know, onto the car, holding, the car up. All right. You want to block your wheels, put your park brakes on, all of that, you know, safety. All right. So I got those bolts removed. Then I'm going to the top. And inside, you can see there are actually 3 bolts up top. I'm going to get these like electrical conduits. They got them connected, like stabilized on these bolts. So I'm just getting those removed, access more space to work. Or really, these have to be removed before you can get to the bolts, because they have them over the threads of the bolt, where the bolts are bolted onto. All right. So these bolts are 18 millimeters. All right. This is the actual plug for the strut. So that little white tab, you pull back on that little tab, or gray tab, pull back on that and then squeeze and pull. Okay, pull back on that, squeeze or smash it down and pull back. There we go. So tuck that out of the way. Then I'm going to get this unhooked from this line. I was trying to do this with my hand, but that's not working. Didn't want to damage it, so I'm going to grab needle nose pliers. Stick the pliers onto there and pry it apart. I don't want to damage it. I'm trying to do it gently as possible without damaging it. Make sure we can reuse these parts. Okay. So it's a 18 millimeter. And I'm doing this manually. If you have power tools, make the job go by much faster. But I'm doing this job manually today. And also, if you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave a comment if you have a question. All of that will help me to build my channel. I'll appreciate it. Okay. You can also share if you know someone that this video might help, might have a vehicle that trying to do this kind of work on, or this job. You can share this video to that person. Or even if you think someone might be interested in seeing the video, you can share it to them. All of that is helpful to me to help my channel grow. and I will definitely appreciate that. Okay, so this is the last one. So once this bolt is removed, the entire strut is loose. So all I have to do at this point is remove it from the car or the truck. Okay, so I'll slide it over there. And something else that can make this job a little easier is the tie rod. You can see the tie rod right there. If you take the tie rod loose, you'll have more room to work or more space to work. I actually kind of, fiddled or whittled away little, whittled it out through between the axle and the tie rod. But if you take the tie rod loose, it'll just come right out much easier. But, it's your choice. You can do it the way I'm doing it or take the tie rod loose. It takes a little more time doing it the way I do it, but a couple minutes, no biggie. Okay, so if you look, you can see where the oil is leaking from the strut. You can see the spring, all the down here, the oil is leaking out from the strut. So that's how you know the strut is going bad. And you can also tell by the ride. You might get a bumpy ride, a hard ride. It just won't be a smooth ride or as normal as how the car was before. These are the bolts. They're actually clip-on bolts, one on each side. So it just clips in place like that. And all of this comes in the package. So now I'm going to reinstall in the reverse of how I removed the old part. I'm trying to do this with one hand, so I'm going to have to set the camera down and use the other hand. Or use both hands, I should say. And you want to, while reinstalling, or even when you're taking it apart, pay attention to how the old strut fits and set the new one back in the same exact position, But it will only fit in the car it'll only work one way, so it's kind of hard to mess it up. Okay. You'll see where the spring stops at the top there. It stops right pretty much in the center, pointing out. So, you look at the old one will be sitting the same way. The new one will be the same thing. So what I'm doing here is I'm holding the strut up, and I'm going to put one of the screws onto the strut, or not screws, but a nut to hold the strut in place while I get the bottom bolts connected. Let's give you a quick view of that screw on top there. Okay. So this is the what you're seeing here with the wrench on it is the sway bar bushing. So I'm actually going to loosen that up to get more room to get the lower bolts caught in the strut, because if you see my arrow is pointing at here, this is my jack angle. I'm actually using that to push the lower control arm down, get some leverage to push the lower control arm down, because the new strut is actually a little longer, maybe half an inch or so longer than the old strut, or that it could just be wear on the whole strut, I'm not sure. But I had to pry down on the lower control arm to get more room to get the new one in there. Okay, so I just used my jack angle between the lower control arm and the pried it one end on the differential, the front differential, and the other end on the lower control arm. So you see I'm using a screwdriver here to align the holes. That way I can get the bolt in there. Get it started by hand, and then tighten with my tool. Remember, if you find the video helpful, please hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing. When you subscribe, you know, I post videos every so often. You might see something else that, you know, might interest you. I actually, majority of my videos are working on cars, but, you know, I do, you know, different things from time to time. Household appliance, some furniture assembly, you know, different things. It is DIY, so, but the majority of my videos are car repair. I'm gonna get these snug down, and it doesn't have to be like super tight. You just want to, you know, get a good couple turns on it once it, you know, tightens down. As you notice, these aren't like real nuts and bolts. Well, the bolts are, you know, ordinary bolts, but these are kind of what do you call these? Clip bolts. Clip, not bolts. I'm sorry. The nuts are clipped on, so they're not like real strong, heavy duty. You know. Basically, the strut and the lower control arm, you know, they support each other. The bolts are just there to hold it in place, basically. So there's really not that much stress on the bolts. All right, so now I gotta get my sway bar linkage retightened. And I had loosened that just to get more room on the lower control arm to drop. So now I gotta get it retightened. That's a 15 millimeter also, both sides of it, the nut as well as the bolt. All right, so I'm done at the bottom. I'll move back to the top. Remember, we have 3 bolts. I'll get those tightened. And we're doing everything in the reverse of what we did to remove it. And doing the strut, whether it's electronic, the electronic type or not, because there are these trucks that just have the plain strut. It's not electronic ride. So it would be the same process. The only difference is there's no lead or electrical lead connected to the strut. That's the only difference. Everything else is the same. And I'd say the average time, it took me about maybe an hour and a half, somewhere in that area to do one side. Maybe a little less than maybe hour and 15 minutes, maybe. Yeah, if I was using power tools, it would be way faster than that. But like I said, I'm doing this one strictly manually, so that's what took, made the time much like more timely or extended time. But hey, I do these videos to say, you can do pretty much anything with the tools you have. It might take a little bit longer, but you know, you can still do a job without power tools and still get the job done. Okay, so this clip I had to remove from the old strut, and it connects on to this plug. So it basically holds this plug in place. This is the same plug that I used the needle nose pliers to separate earlier on in the video. I'm trying to do this with one hand. You just slide that back in place until it locks right there. That's it. And then get those reconnected. Got that back in place. Now gotta get it plugged back together. Trying to do everything with one hand takes a little time. Okay, so once it's reconnected, you make sure to push the little gray clip back in place. That's the lock. So from this point, you just put conduits back onto the bolt heads, and that's a fully installed strut. That's what it looks like there. Hope this video was helpful, like I said. And same thing on the other side. This is DIY Yardie. Bless up.